Hey guys, what's up? Dingo Crikey here with another commentary video. This time I'm going to be doing a Bionicle one, giving my thoughts on the leaked images of the Bionicle 2016 sets. So, occasionally I like to throw a Bionicle video out there, maybe would like to do some more of them in the future, but I definitely feel as though this is a very good one for discussion because it's late September, and here we are with some pretty clear images of the Bionicle 2016 sets, which is pretty big news. Now, there have been images surfacing on the internet, especially on places such as 4chan, and obviously different outlets have been reporting on them. Before, we had some blurrier images, and they were just like coming out so fast, had all this new stuff being revealed, so I didn't really want to discuss them, but now I think the images are clear enough that I am going to give my thoughts on them because we can get a pretty good idea of what the sets are actually going to look like from these. Now, of course, I am not going to have these images posted in the actual video because they do have the confidential logo. At first, I was even weary about discussing them in a video, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So in the description below, I'll have a link posted to a web page with images of all of the sets, and I would recommend bringing up those images to go along with my commentary on the sets. So bring up that web page and follow along with the commentary. Without further ado, here are my thoughts on the sets. So all of the images we have look as though they come from some kind of a catalog, and on the first image we have a page showing images of the earth and fire characters, obviously the creatures and toas of those elements. Let's go over the Toa first, and starting with Ouna, since he's actually my least favorite out of these sets. To me, his design just looks kind of aesthetically weird, and I think it has a lot to do with the legs looking kind of shorter. Now, he did have that with the original Ouna 2015 set, and that was probably one of my favorite out of the Toa, but I feel as though his bigger body in the 2015 set helped balance that out. In this, his body has been reduced to one that's much similar in scale and appearance to the other Toa, which I think is kind of unfortunate and just gives him a little bit of a weird look. I would say he definitely looks like he's the biggest deviation from his 2015 set as well, primarily due to that body, because a lot of the other details are similar. The arms look as though they have the exact same build with the switch of a few things, to be upside down, that kind of thing. The legs are shorter as mentioned. He even has things over his shoulders the same way, though they are much different. But I think the transformation of his body really gives him a different look that I'm not particularly crazy about. I think it would have not only helped him resemble his older part much better if they kept the big body, but it really held the look of the character together. So as far as the proportions and overall look, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm not exactly crazy about it. What about some other things? The overall build looks like we might have some unique things going on in the body. Nothing that stands out too much, though, at least from this image. Not necessarily bad, but nothing to really comment on there. I do like the design of the legs, despite them looking kind of stubby on the rest of the body. It looks as though they're going to have a nice, compact, sturdy look. Obviously, in the lower legs, we do have some new pieces. Those do look pretty cool. I feel as though they fit with some of the other themes, such as fire and ice, better. Now, I have heard some people don't like this foot design Ouna has. I don't know if it is something that has been used in Hero Factory before, as I didn't really keep up with those years. However, I think they look pretty cool. I think they kind of work with the Earth theme, kind of give me vibes of guys like Nuvok and stuff like that. So, that's kind of cool looking. I don't really mind it. As far as the shoulder equipment goes, he still has it as he did in the 2015 version. However, it's quite different. It looks as though they're the same body pieces as the Skull villains used in 2015, which is kind of interesting. As far as the weapon goes, I think it's one of the strongest things about this set. Really cool design. Reminds me a lot of Akimu's hammer, except with some major upgrades. like the kind of smooth look to it around the blaster, and then the drill on the other end also. It also has more of a complex build, as his hammer did in the 2015 set, so it's really cool that he kind of has a similar weapon, but it's obviously upgraded here. Now, as far as functions go, obviously he's going to have the blaster inside of his hammer, but it does look as though he has a gear function. I can't tell if he has one in the upper body. Yeah, it's just too hard to see. However, it does look as though he has one, I guess, in his abdominal area, you would say. It does look to be one of those gears, though not a bright yellow one, though I'm not really sure what it could do back there. Nevertheless, it looks like he at least has a gear function, so that is pretty cool. As far as the mask goes, his looks probably the most different from his 2015 version, in my opinion. It does have some striking similarities, such as the front and even on the sides, with, I guess, those earpieces, as people sometimes call them. But the overall shape is really different for him. It actually resembles Wanua Metro a lot, in my opinion. Significant thing for him, as it looks like it's going to be for most of the mask at least, and that is that the back end of the mask fades into silver. Sort of as the additional mask that came with the Skull villains faded into a translucent color. Now, some people aren't crazy about this. I think it kind of depends on the sets. As for this guy, I don't think it looks too bad. It actually looks like they did a nice job with it, and it isn't just on the top of the set. It looks like it goes around to the bottom areas as well. I think it works well with the black too, though some people may argue it kind of clashes with the color scheme since he doesn't have silver anywhere else, but that does seem to be a recurring theme throughout these sets. It will be interesting to see how that fits into the story or what is the purpose of it. As for the color scheme of this guy, pretty much the same as we had last time, except he looks as though he's going to have a lot more gold this time, especially in the body area. I'm not sure I'm exactly crazy about that, but one thing I do like is that his colors seem to be pretty well distributed, and I think some of the 2015 sets had kind of a problem with that, as Kopaka just had a lot of gold up in his body, but this guy's colors all kind of balance each other out in all the different places of the body, except for the silver on the mask there. But other than that, the color scheme's pretty cool overall. Maybe would have preferred a little bit more black in the body area rather than gold dominating so much, but still looks pretty cool. Definitely glad they're sticking with purple as well. Next, moving on to Tahu, who's now Uniter of Fire. Now this guy, on the other hand, looking pretty fabulous to me. This guy in a lot of ways seems to embody, I think, what he should, and that is an upgraded version of the 2015 set. Overall, I think his proportions and look is very, very cool. The build looks like it's going to really help give him kind of a bulky look in his upper body, and then a little bit skinnier in his legs, though definitely not in a bad way, and it looks like those have complexity to them as well. But looking at his upper body, I really like what they did, kind of working around that new body piece with the Bohrok eyes and then those translucent shell pieces, just giving him a little bit of extra bulk to his torso. Not only does it look good, at least from this image in itself, but it's cool to see that they're venturing out and doing all sorts of different stuff with the 2016 designs. They're not just sticking to the format of the 2015 ones and, giving them new armor pieces and stuff. So from what we can see, that looks very cool. The arms, to me, they kind of have the problem that the original did in some ways, that they're a bit over-armored. Now, some people probably don't have a problem with it at all and think that is really, really cool, so I might be in the minority opinion there. As far as the leg design, man, I'm really, really liking the looks of these. For one, on the upper leg, it looks as though we're going to have a new piece, and it looks as though it may be reminiscent of traditional Bionicle rather than the CCBS clip-on type system. Altogether, though, I think the piece with the ridges in it and stuff just helps give the set a more detailed look. Also, on the lower legs, we have those fiery pieces, which help give his legs more character than they had the first time around, so really nice to see that. Also, the feet have been changed to gold. It really doesn't look like he has much silver at all on him other than the top of the mask. I do kind of like that because some people kind of complained about too much silver being spread out through some of the gold sets. It looks like they're fixing that problem this time. Speaking of the colors overall, from this image it really looks like Tahu's going to be a lot more orange than red. Orange, gold, and black pretty much, and then he does have some blue on the armor piece. Some people might not like that. I actually think it looks kind of cool. It does go with his eye color as well. It does seem like a bit of a weird addition, but if they're going to use an accent in there, light blue isn't a bad choice, but I guess we'll have to see what the actual set looks like. As far as the weapons go, they're really interesting looking on this guy. Definitely an unconventional design, as they're actually look like there's going to be a gear function within the weapons. Now I'm definitely excited about that intuitive touch, but I can't say if it really looks good from these pictures. Because of that function, it might inhibit the weapon's look a little bit, but guess we'll have to see. I think it could go either way as far as his weapon goes, but I do appreciate that they're doing something different there. Then we have the mask. Now this mask, in my opinion, looks a lot better than Auna's, as it looks like an upgraded version of Tahu's mask, being it's different but still similar enough that there's a lot of semblance. I actually think the lower half of the mask, such as the face, looks a lot better than the 2015 version. I like how the eyes are spread a little bit more apart. Just the overall design looks more detailed. He has less of that bearded look as well. That's kind of cool. The only thing I don't like on the mask is the top. The silver they did up there with this guy just kind of has a weird look to it. It almost looks like he has hair or something. Also, I don't see those spikes really fitting in with the rest of the mask. Just kind of odd looking. Maybe that's what they're going for. I mean, it does kind of balance out because he has spikes on other parts of his body, but not really crazy about that. But other than that, I think the mask, like in the face area, is very, very cool looking. Definitely prefer this mask over the upgraded How we've seen with the Toa. Looks really cool this time, and I really like the looks of this new Tahu. Few little things here and there to kind of complain about, but overall, I mean, awesome looking set. Great upgrade of the original Tahu. Then we go up to look at the creatures, and boy are these interesting little fellows. Gotta say, I really, really like the looks of both of these guys, but let's look at Terak, Creature of Earth, first. His color scheme is pretty much the same as on Nua's, whereas none of the protectors except Akimu had gold. It doesn't look like they're shying away from that for this year's smaller sets. But overall, I'm also glad that they did something radically different than the protectors, giving us creatures, which, these aren't like full-on 2001 Rahi, but I think they're closer to what a lot of people have wanted to see something like animal sets released in a regular line of Bionicle. Now, I think this guy is supposed to be a mole of some sort, and I think he gets across the theme fairly well. The big hands are really the things that are giving it away, because those look very reminiscent if you look at the front feet of moles, so that's really cool. The face also works really well for that theme. I understand it's something that they're going to use consistently over all of these creatures, but it works well with this one. We'll have to see how it looks with the other ones. Aesthetically, his hands and head look exceptionally bigger than his back legs. You gotta take the angle into consideration too, but I think it's pretty safe to say that that will be the case from the looks of those pieces, but I don't think it's a problem with this guy. This guy does look as though he'll come with a fair amount of new pieces, such as those attachments on his hands, the same ones Ouna has, but nevertheless they'll be new for the year. That piece that is used on Tahu's upper leg is being used as this guy's main body piece. That looks pretty cool. Now, from what we can see of this image, it doesn't look as though Terak has any function or gimmick, such as the blasters that the protectors had. It does look to me as some of the other ones may have some, but I'm not seeing anything this guy could really do, unless they're going to integrate gears in the back, so, I don't know, he can attack people with his claws or something like that. One more thing to talk about on this guy is the little trap he comes with, and that's what I'm thinking it is, because we have creatures, we have a hunter, so maybe these little things are going to be like weapons that the hunter uses, I'm thinking, and that the little eye on the front is sort of like, I don't know, a button that's stepped on or a sensor or something like that. I mean, these things could just be neutral creatures of some sort or something that go along with the main creature of the set. But I'm thinking even if they're kind of like a little monster or just a machine, they're going to be something that the hunter uses. At least that's early speculation, because they kind of have that bear trap design. As far as these go, they all look like they're going to be pretty much the same thing, except for the eye color, and then the legs are going to be different, which is a step up from what the skull spiders had. So that is pretty cool. This guy has little, I don't know, drill-looking things on his legs. I guess that's kind of cool. But anyways, overall, Terak, the creature of Earth, looks like a pretty good set. Next, we move on to Ikir, creature of fire. I think that's the way you say it. And I'm really liking the looks of this guy as well. He has his own unique theme, yet kind of sticks to the look that Terak has, which I think is pretty cool and is something that 2015 has done well so far. Now with the protectors, they all sort of seem like clone sets with the exception of Fire and Earth, unless you consider Ikimu as well. But we did see in the year that they could make similar sets with enough differences to set them apart, yet look similar enough to look like a team. I'm really surprised they're able to do this with the creatures so well, because they're each based off different types of animals, yet they have similarities such as the body and the head build. In my opinion, it's a creative idea and a really cool one. We can see, unlike Terak, Ikir has wings instead of hands, and his feet design looks to be pretty different as well. So I think the overall design for this guy looks really cool. As far as the colors go, he also has gold on him. I think it looks even better here because it doesn't necessarily look like gold armor, but just part of his fiery color scheme, at least from these images. So it almost helps him look more natural. As far as the color scheme, I do think the silver kind of takes away from the natural look and is a little awkward, like in the upper part of the wings, but we do see it kind of balanced out through the rest of the body, so at least the entire color scheme will kind of complement itself. Now, I'm not analyzing these sets as closely as I'm sure some people are, but it does look as though the wings will have a good amount of posability. I think there's a greater chance in this set that there may be some kind of a gimmick in the wings. Maybe you can make them flap with some gear on the back, or maybe something like Skull Basher had, you know, where you push it in. That would be pretty cool. Not really sure, but it looks like there's a potential for it. And let's look at this guy's little bear trap creature real quick. Same design, but the eye is blue on this one, and he has little orange skull spider legs that look as though they will be translucent. He's kind of the most boring of the little traps to look at. I think it's just because those legs are something we've seen before, but nevertheless, it doesn't make him look like a bad little addition. Once again, it's cool that we're getting something that is like an upgrade from the skull spiders, where they have more different characteristics, yet they have the similar body build. Really liking how they're doing that. Now, I'm also going to talk about Creature of Water while on page 1, just because I think we have a better view of him here, though the second page is technically a full view of, you know, that page with all of the water, jungle, and stone characters. I think we get a much better view here, and the Creature of Water looks as though it is called Akida, and this is a very interesting design. Looks as though it will be the most different of all of these creatures, as it's a fish, which in my opinion is very cool. It's not something we see that often. Obviously, the head design is the same of the previous two creatures, but the rest of the body is very different looking. No visible legs here or arms, and there's a fin sticking out of the back. On the sides we have some additional fins, so they really went full on with the fish theme, and I think it looks pretty cool. It does look a little bit piecey and thin, but I'm not complaining too much. I mean, we're getting a fish. Also, he looks like he's going to have some blasters over the upper part of his body. I would have kind of preferred them leaving the weapons looking to be natural on these creatures, but the dual blasters are pretty imposing looking, and it should be a pretty fun function. twice the amount of bullets to get lost. As far as the color scheme here, really cool as well. Looks like it's going to be a lighter blue on the fins. We also have some black in there, orange. It does look like there's going to be some shades of gray and little differences in the tones of color throughout. Some people might not be happy with that, but from these initial images, I don't think it looks too bad. Maybe a little bit awkward, maybe it could have been a little bit more uniform, but my main problem with the color scheme would probably be the white head. Now, I understand a lot of fish, if you look at them, they do get lighter or have a different color toward the front of their face, but with this color scheme, I just feel as though the white looks a little weird. But at the same time, I can see the purpose of it, and it does have kind of a cool look, but weird at the same time. Don't really know how I feel about that. As far as the trap goes, it looks like some sort of a crab to me, just having those little pointy legs. Once again, maybe not as interesting as the Earth creature's trap, but still pretty cool. Now, we can't really see what the front of it looks like. The eye color does look like there's a blue piece in there, but I'm not really sure what that is. Overall, looks cool though. I'm really liking the looks of Creature of Water. Next, I'm going to be going to page 2 and first looking at the 3 Toa we have here, Gali, Lewa, and Pohatu. As far as Gali goes, I would recommend flipping between page 1 and 2 just so you can get a better view. Page 1's picture is clearer, but page 2 gives you a fuller view of the set. Now, as for Gali goes, I don't really know how I feel about this set. For one thing, with the way the page is and the way she's holding her weapon, the view is a little bit obscured, but it doesn't look bad, but I do think there are a few things that detract, such as it looks as though her shoulders are going to be asymmetrical, and also she's going to have some random gold Bohrok piece sticking out of her right shoulder. Now, she does also have some gold on the chest, but I feel as though not only it looks a bit asymmetrical, but the gold is kind of weird to have on this set. It does give her more colors, but I'm not exactly a big fan of it. She did have some yellow last time, but the gold just looks a little bit weird to me. With saying that, I should mention that the print looks better this time around, more symmetrical, looks like they put more thought into the design, which so far seems like something that has been going with the 2016 prints, so that's definitely a plus. I don't know how much of these sets they had designed like way beforehand, but it seems as though they at least kind of had some revisions to take into account a lot of the things that fans didn't like about the 2015 sets, such as the weird looking prints and stuff. Speaking of the colors, her colors look as though they're going to be primarily darker this time. I don't know if they look like matte Gali colors, but they definitely look as though they're darker than the 2015 versions. Some people might like this. For me, it's nice to see something different. I'm not a fan of how some of these sets are going a little bit darker, but as long as it doesn't become a cycle, it will be cool. She still has a lot of gray, aka silver, thrown in there, so her color scheme looks relatively the same, though the tones are pretty different. Another thing I don't like is the leg design. Overall, they just look kind of bland, but which isn't necessarily bad. But then in the upper legs, we have this random piece on the sides, but nothing in the front, and it leaves them kind of barren looking. Next, to look at the mask, as far as the pros go, it does look like an upgrade of her 2015 counterpart. As far as the cons, can't say I like it as much. I think it's the kind of smooth look all throughout, especially on the top, that just kind of has a weird look to it. Along with the eyes being kind of elongated in this image and being a little bit far apart from each other, she has a very alien look to the mask. Even the front of it kind of does. So I'm not exactly crazy about it. I do like that it looks like the 2015 counterpart, but the design's kind of weird looking. Also, looking at the placement of the eyes on this set and Tahu as well, I'm kind of thinking maybe we're getting another head sculpt because it does look as though their eyes are at least a little bit further apart than the 2015 sets. But maybe not. These images can give us false perceptions a lot of the time. One more thing is the weapon. I like the looks of this weapon a lot better than her last weapon, which wasn't necessarily bad, but in its bigger form it had a lot of weight problems and that kind of thing. Now this one does look much more simple, but I think it's for the best in this case. For one thing, the blade piece on the front, it looks like it will be a really cool new piece, but also I think the way it's constructed looks like it would be very effective for stabbing and slicing as well, which is, well, what you'd want a spear to do. The real interesting thing here is, though, that she has the Rotuka spinner looking thing on top of the spear. Now, I know there's some other LEGO sets that have been using something like spinners, so it may not be a Rotuka spinner at all. Kind of hoping not, because I'm sure the weapon would look fine without it, but that would really get annoying with the spinner falling off all of the time. Don't really know what it would be like otherwise. Maybe just a fan on the weapon. That would be kind of weird unless it had some kind of function, but it looks like it could be kind of cool. So I guess we'll have to see what they're doing there. Overall, the Gali set looks kind of cool to me. Not like one of the best Toa. I think it definitely has flaws. Maybe is a little bit boring looking. It does look like an upgrade of her 2015 counterpart, which is cool to see. But as far as Gali goes, I like the 2015 version better from what we can tell. Next, moving on to Lewa. Now, this guy's quite a different story. I've got to say, at an initial glance, this guy is very cool looking. The colors, the overall design, he has a very lethal look. Just really, really cool. Personally, I liked the 2015 Lewa, but it definitely had its problems. This one, to me, looks as though it will rectify those problems, such as the yellow in the color scheme, the head not being able to move, and I think this one looks more like Lewa. I don't really know what it is. Maybe it's the color scheme kind of reminds me more of Lewa Nuva, but it just has a very airy look to him. It looks like a guy you'd expect to be flying. Now, there are some interesting things going on with the design. Obviously, his arms, as per normal, have a lot of armor going on, but I like the look to it. Once again, it gives him kind of an airy look. A lot of the pieces are kind of flatter, spikier. We see them using the Bohrok's armor again, but it looks cool in this case. The leg design is really interesting here because of the way they connected the Bohrok's armor and the old hand pieces to give him a very unconventional leg design. Now, it does look like this could go wrong, but right now my thoughts are positive. It is something different, but it looks as though it will be kind of cool. Now, the front of the knee piece does look as though it will stick out kind of awkwardly if he's standing in certain positions. I've heard some people also kind of make this prediction. So maybe it'll be one of those things where you have to stand in a certain way for it to look good, but I don't think that will be too big of a problem. Other things as far as the design goes, I like this chest armor a lot better than his original one. Not only is it more symmetrical, but it looks like there's a definite theme going on here, kind of like wings or something like that, and that's really cool for, a Toa of jungle, but originally Toa of air. So that's really cool, and I think it also looks nice with his mask. Now, he has the spikes on the back of his mask, which kind of look like hair, which the other Toa have, but I think they look really cool with this guy because the rest of him kind of complements that look. Even the fade into silver looks cool because of all of the silver he has throughout the rest of the color scheme. As far as the rest of the mask, I also think it looks really cool. Once again, much like his 2015 counterpart, only upgraded. Very cool looking, not really anything bad to say about it. Now, as far as the color scheme, it does look as though he's going to have a darker green with hints of light green throughout, and one heck of a lot of silver. But I think I like the darker color scheme, and even the abundance of silver on this guy helps give him a very lethal look, and he just looks like a guy who's ready for action. I think that is really, really cool. This Lewa looks as though it just has a lot more character than the 2015 one. Definitely one of the best Toa I think we're going to get. Well, unless future images show that it actually looks pretty bad. But from what we can see now, looks pretty cool. Next, Moving on to Pohatu. Now this guy also closely resembles his 2015 counterpart, but is definitely an upgrade. For one thing, the color scheme on him is pretty different. He does still have that kind of burnt brown in the mask, and it looks like he's going to have some of that on his arms and in his weapon, but the body's a really interesting grayish brown color. Not exactly sure how I feel about it. Definitely goes along with darker colors that a lot of these sets look as though they're going to have, and seems as though they're always trying to do something different so they don't just give these sets a brown color scheme. It's different, kind of cool looking too. Other than that, his colors look very similar to his original counterpart, with silver and translucent yellow thrown in throughout. Overall looks kind of cool in those regards, and I like how his leg design in particular is very similar to the original Pohatu's, yet it looks upgraded, not just something totally different. And I do like those yellow and silver spiked pieces. They also look kind of cool. As far as the arms go, not exactly crazy about them, just because it looks like there's an abundance of translucent yellow and gives him kind of a cheesy look to his arms. Also doesn't look as though it blends in with the rest of the color scheme so well. As far as the mask looks, really liking the looks of it as well. Not the most exciting looking mask, looks extremely similar to his 2015 counterpart, but I definitely like the design. Way better than the original Pohatu's Nuva upgrade, which in my opinion was kind of bad because the mask was cool, but it looked absolutely nothing like Pohatu's original mask. This definitely has resemblance to his 2015 version. And he has the silver on top. We can't really tell if they're doing the spike thing on the end with this guy. It looks as though maybe slightly doing it. But once again, with him it kind of works better because he has silver throughout his body, so it kind of balances it out. As far as his weapon goes, looks similar to Gali's. However, he has that rock at the end, which is really exciting for me to see they're bringing back that rock, and I believe those may be the same pieces that were used in the 2001 Pohatu. Of course, they're in a different color scheme this time, but that's really cool that they included it in the set, and the way it connects is pretty cool too. I don't really know what kind of weapon that would be with the rock attached to the back, but at least in this image, stylistically, it looks cool. Also like the blade piece in front, I believe it's the same thing Gali has, except of course we're getting yellow on the end of this one, so it looks nice. Next, we have Uxar, creature of jungle, and Ketar, creature of stone. Looking at Uxar, or creature of jungle, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but who doesn't with Bionicle names once in a while. Can't really tell what this guy's supposed to be. It does look as though he may have 6 legs, so maybe he's an insect? I'm not really sure. Might need to watch more Animal Planet for that one. Well, if only Animal Planet was like it was 10 years ago. Anyways, this set does look cool despite not really knowing what it is. From this image, his design looks unique, and his color scheme looks really cool, especially looking at those green pieces, which I'm thinking might be translucent. He does have a lot of silver, not exactly crazy about that, but at least he'll mesh well with Lewa. Can't really say much more about him just because I'm really not sure what he's supposed to be. Speaking of the little trap that comes with him, in my opinion this is one of the most interesting ones. Creative use of those spiny little rubbery pieces for the legs. I believe those are the same things that were used underneath Mantax's forearms, so it's really cool to see them using them like this, or at least something similar. Though I don't know how well this little guy would be able to stand because of that. I think it just gives this little thing a very unique present. Definitely makes him stand out from the rest of him. So, Creature of Jungle set looks to be pretty cool. Then we have the Creature of Stone, Ketar. Maybe I spoke a little too soon when I said that the fish would be the most unique out of these guys, because this guy seems to have a very personalized design. Looks to be some sort of scorpion type thing, which wouldn't be surprising considering we're kind of getting that with stone sets. Could also see him being some sort of desert lizard. One of the things that stands out about him is that this guy looks like he's going to be a truly brown set. The brown on him looks very reminiscent of the brown that started out in G1 Bionicle, and though he does have some yellow and some of that new grayish brown in the tail, it looks as though the dark brown is going to be his primary color, which I think is pretty cool. Also has some silver thrown in there. Don't really mind it for this guy. I think it looks kind of cool and it doesn't dominate it too much. Now this guy's body looks pretty interesting to me. Can't really tell the way the arms are attached here. From this image they almost look a bit asymmetrical in their attachment, though that may just be the image. I'm hoping that's not the case, but I guess we'll have to see. Some of the stuff in the body looks as though it could be gears because it's that gray color and has those ridges throughout, but that could also be that new piece that we're seeing in Tahu and some of the other sets. All in all, liking the looks of him, and also the little trap that comes with him is also pretty cool looking. He has looks like a chain-linked tail on the back. That's pretty cool. And little gray legs that have a unique piece. And it looks pretty cool. Really excited about the Creature of Stone set. Moving on to the next page, we have Kopaka and Melum. Now I want to put a disclaimer out there. I believe the large image we see is the combined form of these two sets. The individual sets, I believe, are the ones that we see down in the right-hand corner. We can't really see too much of those individual sets. However, Melum does look to be very similar to the Creature of Earth. From the looks of it, I wouldn't be surprised if he's basically like a clone of him, which is a bit disappointing, but all of the other creatures are unique, so not complaining too much here. As for the smaller image of a Kopaka, we can't really deduce that much, so I'm mainly going to look at the large image. Now, I'm not sure how close this combined form is to the actual Kopaka set. Is it just Kopaka with Melum on his back, as it looks as though Melum's head kind of becomes like a helm to Kopaka's mask, and then on Kopaka's shoulders, those look pretty clearly to be Melum's hands, so I'm not sure if it's anything more than a click like we see in the right hand corner there, just attaching him onto the back, kind of like with the Av Matoran in 2008. Either way, speaking on the set, it looks really, really cool from this image. To start, I think the colors are done a lot better this time. They're pretty much the same as they were with 2015 Kopaka, except I think they're a lot more well regulated. He doesn't have a ton of gold on his shoulders and on his chest and none throughout the rest of his body. Looks like it's spread out a little bit better. He has a lot more white. Doesn't have that silver torso that a lot of people hated. And overall his body paint looks pretty cool too. Not necessarily one of my favorites out of the ones we've seen, but definitely not bad. I feel as though they do try a little bit too hard with these body pieces, and if they left them a little bit plainer, may not be that big of a problem. Also, this guy's weapons. In one hand, he's holding a Gatling launcher with something that looks as though it comes over the hand, some silver piece, maybe an additional blade, and his sword is very, very cool looking. Really captures a fantasy-esque vibe, which is nice to balance out some of the more technological side of this character, such as the blaster in the one hand, and then the mask looks more technological too. Let's talk about that for a minute here. It would seem from the larger image that they flipped which side Kopaka has the scope on his mask, but you can't really see it that well in the smaller image, but it looks as though the set might actually be flipped on this larger image, and in the smaller image we can see his sword is on a different side and his blaster, and possibly the mask too. I really hope they don't flip the scope, just because it would be kind of weird. Not the worst thing in the world, but hoping they just keep it consistent. As far as the mask design itself, this one's pretty cool. It looks to be the most detailed out of all of these, that's for sure. It looks similar to his 2015 counterpart, but way more aggressive looking in my opinion. I think the details and the anger in the eyes is really bringing that out. I do kind of like the calmer look for Kopaka. However, in the animations he does seem to get rather grumpy on occasion, so Might kind of make sense that his mask reflects that anyways. In his leg design, we get a look at those new pieces, only they're on his lower legs, and we can kind of see how they're constructed. It definitely looks to be different from the traditional CCBS system, and I'm really excited about that. Altogether, his leg design does just look really cool. The upper legs having those ice crystals, lower legs with the new pieces. Now, the arm design is where I kind of have a problem. Now, when you're looking at the upper arms or into the chest, that looks pretty cool. It looks as though we may be getting some more complexity in there, which is definitely a good thing. But it's those shell pieces on his forearms that are kind of bothering me. They just look oversized, kind of out of place, and their color seems kind of weird as well. It looks either like a very dark blue or just plain black, so don't really know what the intention is with that. Overall, I do like the looks of this set a lot. I felt as though Kopaka and Tahu from 2015 already had kind of similar looks, and it looks as though they're going to be kind of keeping that theme this time around, at least in some senses. So that seems pretty cool. Thumbs up to LEGO for keeping consistency in the themes of the characters and that kind of stuff. Now, will it be as good as 2015 Kopaka? That's all subjective. Personally, 2015 Kopaka was one of my favorite sets from the year. This one looks cool, but could it beat it? That's hard to say. It doesn't have the silver body, so it already has that going for it. I guess we'll have to wait till we see the image of Kopaka not in his combined form. And we don't really get a look at the trap that comes with him, though it looks as though there is one if you look in the upper right-hand corner of the page. And it might actually have a green eye, so that'll be interesting to see. Moving on to the last set that we have revealed, we have Umarak the Hunter. And I know there's some differing opinions on this guy out there, but personally, every inch of him looks to be oozing with awesomeness. The color scheme and the leg build are both very untraditional, yet I think they pull them off very nicely. The color scheme in particular was one that, if it was just mentioned, I wouldn't feel so positive about it. But I think it gives him a very jungly look to him, but one we really haven't seen. Almost like he would more belong in a climate with pine trees and those kind of things, as opposed to a full-on rainforest type jungle. But I'm sure the antlers could be contributing to that. And let's talk about the antlers as well. A very cool design choice in my opinion. Really helps with this whole theme that they seem to be setting up this time around, and also look very cool. Interesting design. They do seem to use that one, what would you call it, like a 120-degree angle a lot, but it has a cool look, and adding all those spikes in on there, especially the big ones at the end, very cool looking. Also the mask, man, this one, I really like the Skull Villain's mask. This one looks like it continues their greatness. Totally different design we have, but it looks like he has a lot of detail, ridges, very evil looking. And this guy is unmistakably a bad guy, which is of course very cool. Also, contributing to that, he has all of the red spikes, he has them on his arms, and then I believe he also has some on his feet, so that's pretty cool, and Bohrok eyes all throughout that kind of help with that theme. We see a good amount of them on the legs, which have a great design in my opinion. It is a bit weird, it might be off-putting initially, but they do feel like a callback to the original Bionicle, and it gives him a distinct look. Also looks as though he'll have some cool posability in there. Now, in his rear abdominal area, you can see something that looks much like a gear, so I'm really curious how that will work. I doubt they would have just randomly stuck it there, and it doesn't look like these guys are going to have a swing their legs back and forth feature, so I'm really curious what they're going to be doing with the gears on these new sets. His weapon is something we've kind of seen before, but I'm not necessarily sick of the crossbows yet. Just hoping they don't do them too much more after this. Other than that, I really think the only flaw with this guy is he has a lot of awesome stuff going on, and his build looks a little bit scrawny to fit all of it in there. Now, he might have somewhat of an extended arm, If you look at his right arm, that may be the case, but I just wish they would have gave him a little bit more bulk. But once again, these are early images. Maybe everything will look fine and dandy once we've seen the actual figure. One last thing on the set, if you look at the image down below, it looks as though he may be coming with the Mask of Control. So that's kind of interesting that would be coming in the first half of the year, considering what we had in 2015, but I do believe that is the Mask of Control, as it appears to be in the corner of all of the boxes, but, you know, he has it down there. So I'll be interested in what connection this guy may have to the mask and in his story altogether. Maybe they're bringing the Dark Hunters back, he's kind of a nod to them, something like that. Kind of hope they do some interesting story with him. Speaking of that, some general stuff. I already mentioned the boxes, so from what we can see, they look as though they're going to be the same shape and overall design, layout as we had in 2015. Probably won't be getting canisters back. It's a little disappointing, but I don't mind these new boxes too much. They're, better than something like bags, which a lot of Hero Factory sets seem to have. In general, it looks as though these sets are going to be going back a little bit more to some G1 Bionicle roots. Now, a lot of people were worried that Bionicle was just going to stay very strictly to the CCBS system, but there were people speculating that once it got its feet on the ground, it would start going back to more of traditional Bionicle and the builds and the look, that kind of thing. It looks as though they'll be going in the direction of the latter, which is pretty cool to me, though even the smoothness of the 2015 sets I didn't really mind after having them for a while, but having more complexity is always a cool thing, and right now it looks like we might be getting that. I do like that they're giving us animal sets again, that's pretty cool. Looks like the sets are going to have some sort of a combination feature with the creatures and the Toa. As far as those click combinations, really couldn't care less. If they're there, that's okay, but yeah, it's not like I really combined any of the protectors or the Toa after having them for all this time, so always would prefer actual combo models, and who knows, maybe we'll be getting those as well. As the third wave of Bionicle's reboot, I think this one looks like it's going to be very, very cool. One of the things I like in particular is that we're getting upgraded heroes that actually look like their former selves. Whether it was Transformers or Bionicle, this was something that always bothered me as a kid, where we would have a character get upgraded and, oh, they have these crazy new weapons, but they don't even look like who they originally were. That always bothered me more, even if they were more powerful than they used to be. These ones clearly look like their former characters. Ouna looks to be the biggest departure, but the rest of them, I think you could tell pretty easily. I'm also glad that they're not redoing something such as the Toa Nuva. Here's the thing. As much as I like throwbacks to the original Bionicle, this is Bionicle's first reboot, and if it sticks too strictly to G1 Bionicle, in my opinion, it could find itself in a very bad place, because I think that's what's happened with Transformers, where 30 years later you still have people crying for it to basically be the same exact thing every single series. And of course, luckily Hasbro and the people making the shows don't always listen to those groups in the fan base, but we do see a lot of the same in Transformers, and I think that's really unfortunate. I don't want that to be the same case with Bionicle. I want them to be able to have throwbacks to G1, but be able to develop new ideas, new concepts, aim it at new audiences, all that kind of stuff. And of course, still making it good. I mean, if they just made it full-on Hero Factory, that would of course be disappointing. It still has to have some of the central elements, no pun intended, that make Bionicle Bionicle, but I don't mind them messing around with characters. I don't think they need to have the Bohrok in the second year of G2. As much as I love the Bohrok, they're personally one of my favorite set waves. If they didn't redo the Bohrok at all, that would be fine, because for one thing, for me, there were really no problems with the original Bohrok. It's not like they need to be remade or anything. So for me, I'm glad to see that they're being more creative and not sticking strictly to G1 Bionicle content, and that they're just moving on so much from 2015. Yeah, these might not be the most radical upgrades that some people would have liked to see in the sense of complexity, but, you know, this is what we're going to have. It looks as though it's going to be more so than 2015, but maybe not as much as a set such as Brutaka. But it all looks pretty cool to me, and I'm going to kind of wrap things up here. I'm sure there's some things I've forgotten to mention in the mix, but this video is already going on for a really long time, and there's obviously tons of stuff I can discuss, so I'm just going to wrap it up here. Of course, you guys can leave your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you think of the 2016 sets? Better or worse than the 2015 sets? Maybe you would have liked more radical upgrades, or maybe you think that these creatures are sort of a preview of getting like actual Rahi as the villain in the summer wave of 2016. Whatever it might be, drop off your thoughts in the comments section below, and you can drop off topic suggestions. If you're one of my regular viewers, you know that usually what I do is Transformers videos. Though I haven't got as many uploaded lately, you know, that's the normal thing, and I'm going to get back to the schedule. But anyways, I will take Bionicle topic suggestions, and even if I don't make a ton of Bionicle videos, I'll at least try to answer your questions in the comment section below, or in occasional Q&A videos, where I'll also be answering Transformers questions. If you're a Bionicle fan and you just came across this video but you're into Transformers too, know that you can check out my channel for a ton of Transformers content, and I'm going to be trying to get back on that schedule again, so you can expect a lot of new stuff coming too. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter for news and images of recent Transformers and Bionicle buys, along with other cool stuff. Anyways, that is all I have to say for this one. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and have a good one, guys. I'll see you soon.